Hello, this is a screencast for Google Classroom and it explores some teacher functions with some emphasis on feedback. So, the very first function that I love to use for feedback in Google Classroom is posting a class announcement. So, the very first thing on your stream should say share something with your class. If you click on that, you have the ability to post whatever you need. The best function, I think, on a class announcement is who you're sending it to. You can send it to all students, or you can choose individual students or groups of students. Obviously, I only have one student demo here for the purposes of this classroom. So when I click on my student demo, it inherently chooses all students. But for your Google Classroom, you should see everybody listed. You can choose one individual student if you need to send them a quick note. Another cool function would be if you have students working in small groups, then you can send each group some feedback if they need an additional materials or maybe some feedback on how their project is going so far or something like that. Another neat function would be to use this to support accommodations for your 504 IEP students. Say an accommodation for a group of IEP students is reminders for turning in classwork or providing graphic organizers or note-taking guides or study guides, anything like that. You could choose those specific students and send it to them discreetly. An example I have down here of posting a class announcement. I just posted welcome to the demo page, and then from my student demo account I replied to the post, thanks Mrs. Smart. You can obviously add a class comment, so something that will go to the whole class. You can also reply to that student specifically. Say in their post there was a misconception or a misunderstanding, or the student had a specific question, you can again just reply to that student. The second big function on Google Classroom is posting classwork. So at the very top here, I'm going to click on classwork. Oh, discard. I don't need that post. Click on classwork and it will show me everything that I have assigned to this specific class. These are just examples that I posted for the sake of this demo. A couple of questions and then some assignments as well. So obviously you can create different types of classwork. The two I have here are questions and assignments. Questions are really neat because you can make it silly and fun, like my one here, what is your favorite Halloween candy? Just a question for students to interact with the Google Classroom page, encourage them to be logging in there and checking and looking. You can also post something more for a check for understanding or as kind of a formative assessment. This question is about feedback. And again, with questions, you can assign them to all students or maybe one or two or group. Cool feedback of a classwork. Posting a regular assignment, you can do that as well. So that is what these examples are, just kind of, these are actually essays that I assigned to my real 7th graders, just as examples on here. And we will click on the argumentative essay just for an example. You can see I have obviously the title, some directions on how to complete it. A good tip for Google Classroom is if you are in the Google universe, stay in the Google universe. So you can see my guidelines and my template. They're both Google Docs instead of like a Word document. Uploading things in Google Docs, Google Slides is helpful for students. I think sometimes with a Word document, the formatting can become wonky. Sometimes students aren't able to open it. So again, if you're in Google, stay in Google, convert your resources to a Google Doc. Something else you can see here is how many students have turned it in, how many it's assigned to. Let's go up to this narrative so you can see. Again, there's only one demo student in my class, so this number is only ever going to be one. But you can see that I've graded whatever the demo student turned in. But for this one, the student has turned it in, but I haven't graded it yet. And then for this one, the student has been assigned it, but hasn't turned it in yet. So a cool snapshot of what's going on, who's turned in what. As far as giving actual feedback on what students have turned in, there's a couple ways to get there. You can either come to this classwork page and then actually click on Turned In, and it will go to that specific assignment and will show you all of your students will be listed here on the left, and you can kind of toggle between whatever students you want to grade or want to give feedback on right then. You can see a link to this student's essay, and this is a Google Doc. Again, if you have students working in Google Classroom, you want them to be working in Google Docs, and that way you can give feedback directly on their doc. Another way to give feedback from this page, besides just giving feedback on actual assessments, is if you have a student selected. Obviously, you can return whatever is graded to them. You can also send them an email, kind of a shortcut. If you need to send in additional communication, say they didn't turn in the right thing or they're missing a component. So that's a quick way to give feedback on what they've turned in. Another way to get here, so I'm going to go back to just my home page. If you click on your menu on the upper left and then click on To Do, this is another great snapshot of things you've assigned, what's been turned in, what's been graded, all of that. So you can see a good summary of everything here. As far as giving actual feedback, I'm going to go to that argumentative essay that my student has turned in, but I haven't graded yet. So we're back to this page. If you click here, it will open that actual Google Doc, and I will create a separate screencast for giving feedback and scoring student work.